We'll be reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 4, text number 7, page 224. 224. 224. Very famous verse. Okay, the word for words. Yada hi dharmasya glanihi bhavati bharata abhutanam adharmasya tada atmanam Srijami Aham Yada hi dharmasya Glanir bhavati bharata Abhutanam adharmasya Tadatmanam srijamyaham Yada hi dharmasya Glanir bhavati bharata Abhutanam adharmasya Tadatmanam srijamyaham Yada hi dharmasya Glanir bhavati bharata Abhutanam adharmasya Tadatmanam srijamyaham Yada whenever Yada wherever He certainly dharmasya of religion glanihi discrepancies bhavati manifested becomes bharata O descendant of Bharata abhutanam predominance adharmasya of religion of irreligion tada at that time atmanam self srijami manifest aham I whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself.
Descend from where? He descends from his own abode. Originally there's one, just the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Eko Bahu Sham. But in order to expand his enjoyment, he expands and unlimited living entities, his parts and parcels, and all varieties of relationships and different forms in the spiritual world, in Krishna's abode. There are animals, there are plants, there are aquatics, everything. That's the Lord's domain, that's his desire. Someone might say, well, how can we believe that? But we're living in a world that has that too. We came to this world, there are all these animals, insects, birds, plants, where do they come from? How did all these things get here? We're trying to, with a kind of going backwards, we're trying to piece it together and guess what must have happened or in the beginning. But that's a very difficult task. And it's not very satisfying. But there is a history. And it begins with the spiritual world. Lord Brahma explains that there's Vaikuntha planets, many different millions and millions of spiritual planets where the Lord resides in Vishnu features. Vishnu is an expansion of Krishna, and there are many different expansions. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navajovanam Cha. These expansions are all coming from Him. And some of the expansions are in the form of animals, or what we consider animals, like tortoise and fish and horse and boar. All the different types of forms, they're coming from Him. He has arranged things the way He wants them in His own abode. And He's enjoying, just like we like to be in that kind of a surrounding also. If we had our choice, we would have a nice estate with nice trees and plants and animals but everyone, all these different creatures there would be friendly. We wouldn't like to keep any species there like a lion. We wouldn't like to have a lion in our estate running wild, because then our guests would be terrorized. And we wouldn't be peaceful, we couldn't go out. So He has all the different varieties of enjoyment, but no terrible creatures, no anxieties there. And because God is very magnanimous, He wants to share His enjoyment with everyone, all of His parts and parcels. And He has facility there. In this, the highest spiritual abode is called Krishna Loka. Even that one planet is sufficient to accommodate all the living entities without any overpopulation or without any difficulty. But because He's also very broad-minded and He doesn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable, because He has a loving relationship with all the living entities, He gives them free will to stay there or to go to other planets in the spiritual world, or he has other varieties. There's Lord Shiva has his abode, which is something between the spiritual world and the material world. And there's Brahmajyoti. Some of the living entities can have an impersonal situation. They're not very... You've met people like that. They don't get along well with people. They don't like to be with people, so they can have their own place where there are people, but there are people like them that don't like to associate with other people. So they enjoy that kind of existing. It's a perfect arrangement for them. They can stay there as long as they like. They don't have to do any work. They don't have to... There's nothing bad to worry about. There's no one's going to destroy them. They're not worried about being destroyed. So you can see why people are attracted to that. Some people are attracted. Just go, stay there, and no worries. No ego trips, no karma, no competition. It's competitionless. But no love either. But at least no hate. So some have given up on the idea of love. They don't think there's any possibility of that because they've had bad experiences with the love. They give themselves to someone and then they get cheated, or they cheat. So they've given up on it and they think, I'll just go. If there's a place, even if it's void, they think that would be better than this place where there's so many difficulties. So Krishna arranges for them, and in the material world, we know about the material world. There are millions of universes, and they don't last forever, but they last a long time. And there's different types of bodies, 8,400,000 species that one can choose as he likes. He can experience these different types of bodies, and there's some enjoyments. Some of them fly, some of them live in the earth, some of them live short time, some of them live a long time. And they can do this for a while, and then if they're tired of that, they can go to the higher realms. And in the meantime, while the living entities are in the material planets, they have the opportunity to resume, to go back to the spiritual world. And Krishna wants to keep that open, that opportunity open, so he comes to the material world to display his pastimes. We know we have the American pastime, I think, is baseball. Different pastimes, different people in different parts of the world. Monkeys have their pastimes. If you put a group of monkeys together, they'll figure out a nice program how to enjoy each other's company. And they love it. So, where does all this pastime business come from? It comes from him. And Where does all these different species come from? They come from Him. Janma Jasyata, everything comes from Him. So if He comes like a boar, it's a pastime of His to enjoy like that. And then in the material world, there are facsimiles, like His forms. Like our form right now is a human form, like His form. Like His form is Krishna or Ramachandra. So we get bodies like that. And we get more or less the same facilities that He has on a smaller scale. We can have wives, we can have children, we can be consorts of His. Be consorts of His facsimiles. We can be females, we can be males. Different varieties. And even Krishna does that. God does that. His original form is male, but He expands into a female form. Srimati Radharani is His female expansion. It's Him in a female form. Because He wants to enjoy different types of experiences, different types of pleasures. And that's why He comes to the material world to display His pastimes. It's enjoyable for Him, but He also, being the supreme controller, He's managing everything. And He wants to do the thing that will give the most pleasure to the living entities. And that is Dharma. Dharma means occupations and religions, duties given by God for everyone. And He gives them their duties and their religion, and if they follow it, then they become happy. Either they can be happy in the material world, although that's difficult because the material world is not really made for permanent happiness. So He has arranged a system whereby rectification can take place and the living entities can rectify themselves in a short time. So much so that they can be relieved of their imprisonment in the material world, and they can go back and live with the Lord in any one of His unlimited forms. They can live with the boar incarnation, the Nrsingadev incarnation, fish incarnation, Ramachandra, all different forms, as they choose. So this is why He comes. He displays the highlights of His pastimes, His most enjoyable activities. And all we have to do is hear them, think about them, remember them. It's called Hari Kirtan. We just have to think about them and we will become purified. Just as we're thinking of, if we don't think of Krishna's pastimes, we're thinking of somebody's pastimes. Read the newspaper. What's the football player doing? What's the president doing? What's the entertainer doing? What's the rich man doing? Everybody. What's the burglar? Different people want to find out what different people are doing. Or, what are the animals doing? Go on the internet, you'll see it. Hey, look how they live. You can find out all about how the animals live. They have their society, they have their enjoyments. Where does all this come from? It comes from God. So, somehow or other we are deprived of this information that God enjoys all these different pastimes, and He brings them to the material world also for our pleasure. And we can be fully satisfied. Every year we celebrate the appearance of the Lord in His different features. One day He comes as Varaha, one day He comes as fish incarnation, one day He comes as the Shringadev. And the Vaishnavas, they glorify the Lord when He comes and displays His pastimes. And they get satisfaction, spiritual satisfaction. And instead of feeling the need to go to zoos and study National Geographic and try to find out about all the different... They're happy to hear about the Lord's incarnations and His different features. So, Lord Ramachandra appeared nearly 2 million years ago in the Treta Yuga as a perfect king to establish Dharma, to show how a kingdom should be ruled. And He displayed how wrongdoers should be treated. And He showed how wives should be treated. He showed how friends should be treated, how parents should be treated. He displayed all these wonderful things. And as we hear about them and learn about them, we become purified. And society can follow in the footsteps. Read the purport.
Purport. The word srajami is significant herein. Srajami cannot be used in the sense of creation, because according to the previous verse, there is no creation of the Lord's form or body, since all of the forms are eternally existent. Therefore, srajami means that the Lord manifests Himself as He is. Although the Lord appears on schedule, namely at the end of Dwapara Yuga of the 28th millennium of the 8th Manu, in one day of Brahma, still He has no obligation to adhere to such rules and regulations, because He is completely free to act in many ways at His will. He therefore appears by His own will whenever there is a predominance of irreligiosity and a disappearance of true religion.
Yeah. He's independent. He can appear as He likes. Sometimes we think, why should God appear? Why should He come here? Why should He have form? Why not? That's the original nature of the Lord, is form. Even the Bible says that man is created in the image of God, so that means God has form. He has face, he has hands. And he must be beautiful. We wouldn't expect God, who has generated so many beautiful things, himself would have no beauty. He has such a beautiful sense of artistic sense. How much beauty must there be in him? And Krishna means all attractive. He's attractive to everyone. But everyone is originally or naturally attracted to Krishna, just like iron filings are all attracted to a magnet, a powerful magnet, in their original sense. But if they're left in water for a long time, they become corroded with rust. And then they're not attracted to the magnet anymore. So we've been left in the ocean of material existence for such a long time. Our original nature of being attracted to Krishna has become rusted. And that's why we're not attracted anymore. But that's not a natural condition, that's an unnatural condition. And it needs to be rectified. And it can be rectified by the process that the Lord has established as Dharma. Sanatana Dharma means eternal religion or eternal occupation. That eternal occupation is to serve Krishna, to serve the Lord. But he arranges different methods for different times and circumstances. And in this age, it's not very suitable for some of the processes, but it's very suitable for chanting. So the Lord has arranged this process of chanting Hare Krishna, simplified, simple process, but just because it's simple, don't think it's not powerful or it's not fully effective. It brings all the benefits of any other process. Continue.
Principles of religion are laid down in the Vedas, and any discrepancy in the matter of properly executing the rules of the Vedas makes one irreligious. In the Bhagavatam, it is stated that such principles are the laws of the Lord. Only the Lord can manufacture a system of religion. The Vedas are also accepted as originally spoken by the Lord himself to Brahma from within his heart. Therefore, the principles of Dharma or religion are the direct orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. These principles are clearly indicated throughout the Bhagavad Gita. The purpose of the Vedas is to establish such principles under the order of the Supreme Lord. And the Lord directly orders at the end of the Gita that the highest principle of religion is to surrender unto Him only, and nothing more.
We will, if we follow that, we'll be satisfied. Because we will be reestablishing our eternal relationship with the Supreme, either as friend or as servant or parentalhood or conjugal relationship, some kind of relationship that will be satisfying to us. And that relationship will become the primary relationship. It's not that in the spiritual world there's only relationship with Krishna only. No, there's unlimited living entities, and the associates of the Lord are also friends with all their associates. They're enjoying all kinds of relationships. But the primary relationship is with Krishna, is with God. That's the central feature. But it only enhances all the other relationships, just like when we read in Krishna book about Krishna in Vrindavan. There are the cows, and all the cows have their calves, and the cows love their calves, and the calves love their mothers, the cows, and the bulls love the... But the thing that makes everything wonderful is that Krishna is there. If you take Krishna out, then it just becomes the ordinary relationships that we have in the material world. We have cows, we have calves, we have all these things, but we also have slaughterhouses. Where Krishna is present, there's no slaughterhouses. So, when Krishna is in the center, everything becomes wonderful. Everything is fair, everything is just. Everyone is satisfied with what they've got. And as soon as you take Krishna out, then there's no more justice anymore. There's no one to establish the rules, no one to uphold honesty and purity. Somebody will get some bad idea and try to impose it on the others. So that's what we have now. We're trying to rectify the situation, but we're missing the most important ingredient, Krishna. You take God out of the picture, then you take Dharma out of the picture, then you take truthfulness, you take compassion, you take mercy, cleanliness out. Imagine a world without cleanliness, without compassion, without truthfulness and austerity. Then it just becomes more and more degraded. So the more we exclude God or Krishna from our life in any field, in our entertainment side, our recreation side, in our relationships with our children, if we take God out of the relationship, it will fall apart. The family will fall apart. Just like we see, the children don't stay with their parents now after they grow up. But if you go to a country like India, of course India is fast becoming westernized, but if you go to the villages, you'll see they still have the family. And they have large family combination. So there's the grandparents and the great-grandparents and the uncles and the nephews, and they're all living together. Because Krishna is in the center. Because God is in the center, then you have family. So this is the need of the day, is to put God back in the center of everything. And Krishna says, all that you eat, all that you offer, all that you give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, do it as an offering for me. In other words, put me in the center of everything you do, everything you think. That's Krishna consciousness. That's Rama consciousness. That's God consciousness. Last night we were speaking with a young man. He was very excited about love. Love consciousness. But what are you going to love? Who are you going to love? What is love? How do you love? How do you receive love? How do you give love? Is love temporary? Is it permanent? In order to answer these questions, you have to have Krishna. You have to talk with God and find out, what is love? Love is bhakti. Bhakti means love, but it's with devotion. It's not love without Krishna. Then it becomes lust. When I want to enjoy a relationship with someone without Krishna, then I want to be the enjoyer. Or someone else will want to be the enjoyer and they'll expect me to be enjoyed, but then they'll exploit me. Krishna doesn't exploit his lovers. And Krishna's devotees don't exploit him when he acts as a subordinate. When Krishna plays the part of a child for Mother Yashoda, she doesn't exploit him. Think, now finally I've got God where I want him. I'll give him some retribution for all the things he's done to me. She doesn't think like that. Because the nature of God or Krishna is, as he is all good, all blissful, anything that comes in touch with him becomes all good and all blissful. Just like fire. Fire has quality of heat and light. And if you put an iron rod in the fire, it acquires all the qualities of fire by association. So, this is the art of Krishna consciousness, and Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, brought this culture of God-centered life to the world, not just to the West. It may seem like he came from the East to the West, but actually he brought it to the East too. He brought it everywhere. From the spiritual world. Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtana. This Krishna consciousness is coming from the spiritual world, and it can revolutionize everything. Make everything very nice. Even living in the material world can be nice because it's a preparation for going back to the spiritual world. And one can get the benefits of the spiritual world while being here in the material world when he's practicing God consciousness or Krishna consciousness. So this is what we need to do Yadashnasi yat jahosi dadasi yat. We mentioned that. Make God the center of our life in every facet. And the best way to do that is to associate with devotees who are doing it and learn from them. This is a science that's communicable. And by associating with people who are endowed with Krishna consciousness, spiritual consciousness, we can also get it and pass it on. The world becomes a better place when we pass on these things because Krishna is so good. For example, as Lord Ramachandra, he apprehended the wrongdoer. Ravana was a wrongdoer. Wrongdoers should be apprehended and corrected. So he did that. That's good. If wrongdoers are not corrected and not apprehended, then everything becomes chaotic. No one can live peacefully. If there are any questions, we can, or discussion, we can. Yes?
So what about the argument that hearing about these pastimes, one might say locked up in the temple, just hearing about Krishna, not experiencing the world, does it make sense that one might say, well, why would God want that for his creation?
Well, we don't lock our people up in the temples. Doors are unlocked and Lord Chaitanya sends them around. Pritivita yachayata nagaradi gram sarvatra puchoyobe moranam. He sends them out to every town and village. So there's so many places to go and adventures. Even some of our devotees have been with us for 5 years. They've been so many different places. So it's not a cloistered, restricted. Take it out. Krishna likes to be taken out. He likes to have festivals where people are given a chance to learn about Krishna and associate with him. And he himself doesn't stay packed up. He goes from universe to universe, displaying his pastimes. So I don't think that it's packed up. It's unpacked. The opportunities are there. And if you like, then you can join Krishna on his traveling roadshow as he goes from, like the demigods, when Krishna was coming to this planet, he said, okay, all the demigods, you go down there and join me for this pastime. We have to take care of these wrongdoers, and we'll do it in a wonderful way, and you'll play different parts. They all got their parts, and they were happy to do it. Some of them became consorts of Krishna. They got to become the women got to become his wives. Some of them became his grandparents. So, full of enjoyment. We're thinking that our little world, we're the ones that have the cloistered thinking. We're thinking our little world is much bigger than that.
Hare Krishna. So we were talking, you were speaking a little bit about Krishna coming in different forms and features and things. I was wondering if you could explain what is a plenary portion and what is parts of a plenary portion, and how are they equal in potency from Krishna but different?
Well, to give a kind of a modern example, we have our digital reproduction formula. We used to have an analog system. You had an original recording, and then you could make a different version, a different copy. But they lost a little bit of the potency. They weren't able to keep all the original data, but now digital, they say, is able to do that. So you can make unlimited digital copies, and they have all the same original information without any loss. So that's something like that. Krishna's one, but he can expand. So that's a plenary expansion, and then an expansion of the plenary expansion. Kala, that's also another digital copy. It's also the same. But still there's one original, and that's Krishna.
Are these expansions endowed with a more predominant feature of Krishna?
They may be. He has all different types. Partial expansions. Sometimes he has other living entities partially expand and join together with his own expansion. Sometimes he has the goddess of fortune expand to help. Just like Draupadi, she's said to be a partial expansion of the goddess of fortune. And Rukmini, she's a direct expansion of the goddess of fortune. So, and then the gopis, they're expansions of Srimati Radharani, who's an expansion of Krishna. And it's a little complicated to keep up with all the expansions. But we try to get some idea, just so we can follow along. But it's difficult for us to comprehend with our little. But if we hear submissively and render devotional service, then we can appreciate and understand these things. It makes perfect sense.
So you said that this Krishna consciousness is communicable, or this science. I was thinking about that Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says that he's directing the wanderings of all the living entities. So whenever we're in association of devotees, there's certain things that happen, certain arrangements, pastimes, I guess. How is it that, what's the mechanism for us to help each other make advancement? What's happening in the temple environment?
We're trying to surrender to Krishna. That's the best thing we can do to help others, to be exemplary in our serving Krishna. And Krishna wants everyone to be happy and to be free of distress and anxiety. So we We assist Krishna in his work of, shall we say, reclaiming the fallen souls, living entities who are stranded in the material world. He wants to bring them back to the spiritual world, bring them back to spiritual consciousness. So that's a wonderful adventure. We go out and try to reintroduce people to Krishna and Krishna consciousness. And we assist other devotees in their service, and they assist other devotees in their service. Everyone's working as a team. It's the ultimate team effort, because everybody's on the team. So we want to get everyone involved in this wonderful Krishna team play. And the Sankirtan movement is so nice that everyone can participate in it. You can play kartals, you can play mridanga, you can sing, you can hold a flag, you can dance. So many ways to participate. You can cook the prasadam, you can distribute the prasadam, you can decorate the carts. Other questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class as always. You mentioned competition. Is there any room for competition in this movement? Living in the material world, there's so much competition, and it seems due to maybe greed and lust. It's hard not to bring that in sometimes. Is there any room for friendly competition or things like that?
I was discussing this the other day. Material competition, as you mentioned, is self-centered. I want to be the highest. I want to be the winner. But if I'm the winner, then others have to be the losers. And that makes me feel bad. If you've ever won an event, you feel good in a sense, but you feel sad for the others because they didn't win. And if you lose, you feel nice for him, but you feel bad for yourself also. So that's material competition, because again, it leaves Krishna out. Material competition means we're competing and Krishna is not even in the game, not even in the activity. And spiritual competition means we're competing for Krishna's pleasure. If it's for Krishna's pleasure, no one loses. Lord Ramachandra told a spider was trying to kick some sand into the ocean for building the bridge across the sea. And Hanuman didn't want to harm the little spider, so he felt he had to throw the big boulders in. But Lord Ramachandra reminded him that in Krishna consciousness there's room for both. The little competitor, the big competitor. The spider's not envious of Hanuman, and Hanuman's not envious of the spider. They both do the best they can do. And the Lord appreciates their efforts. So in transcendental competition, as long as Krishna is in the center, there'll be no animosity, there'll be no bad feelings. You won't feel bad when you win, because you know that Krishna's the real enjoyer, not me. And if I've done anything that seems to put myself in a higher position, it's not due to any greatness on my part. It's Krishna's and the spiritual master's arrangement. They deserve the credit, not me. You've seen that in the Academy Awards. Sometimes a person, he wins the award for the best actor, and sometimes he says, I cannot accept this, and he gives it to someone else. One time, the actor gave the award to the man he was portraying in the movie. He said, I just portrayed his life. If anyone deserves the award for the wonderful performance, it's him. So we all feel happy with that because, well, I mean, at least semi-happiness. If he put Krishna in the center, it would be better, but it was an attempt to take himself out of the center and not be the main person. That's the problem in the material world. We're putting ourselves in the center position as if we were the most important person, and that causes problems. Instead, if we put Krishna in the center, everything works nicely. There'll be no fighting. Everyone will get along very nicely, like in the spiritual world. But there's competition amongst the coward boys. They say, there's Krishna. I'm going to go touch Krishna first. And the other one says, no, you're not. I'm going to touch Krishna first. And they compete like anything to see who can touch his feet first. But Krishna enjoys it, and both boys enjoy it, no matter which one touched his feet first. That's transcendental competition. Okay?
Hare Krishna. So now we're going to have Arti. So we'll take all the books and these mats and we'll set them in the corner here and